You know, as an old poem I read, and I understand it so much better now, as Tennyson said, the old order changeth, yielding place to new, and God fulfills himself in many ways, lest one good custom should corrupt the world. That good custom, my friend, is democracy. Democracy is that good custom which is getting corrupted day after day. In order to realize the democracy, to make it real, to add to it, to enhance it, and to see it happen in a tangible way, to make it work for people, we'll have to work a lot harder. Now let's see as to why there was a need for Aam Aadmi Party. Why there was a need to actually, because all the revolutions that he saw and the stirrings that he saw, and when you talk about the Arab Spring and what have you, they happened against dictatorship. This is perhaps one mass protest that he saw in India, led by Anna Hazare on Lokpal Bill, which is actually a bill for anti-corruption, for an ombudsman in India. It happened against democracy. We have a multi-party system, we have executive, we have legislature, we have judiciary, we're supposed to have separation of powers, but something clearly is not working. So let's analyze why and how. Let's look at a parliament whose constitutional mandate is to make laws. And let's see a parliament as it stands. Now if you look at a parliament, let's see how often it's been productive. About 2 crores of Indian rupees is spent on the working of parliament on a daily basis. But as you see, only 20% of that productive time was spent on legislative work. Recently you saw the pepper spray. You know how somebody actually came in with pepper spray and did that. In Delhi Assembly we had people breaking down mics. So that's that. Only 13% of the original time was actually used for anything important where legislation is concerned. Now 1/3 of Indian parliamentarians, my friends, have cases, and this is as per their own affidavits. And these are criminals we're talking about, criminal cases and cases of corruption. And this is just not frivolous cases, but these are actually charge-sheeted members of parliament. So there is no law in place to prevent them or debar them or allow them to at least let themselves be condoned and get a reprieve before they get into parliament. So 1/3 of Indian parliamentarians right now have serious cases of corruption and criminal charges against them. Now let's look at another 1/3 of India. And if you look at Venn diagram, it could be, it might not be a mutually exclusive area. The other 1/3 are princelings. They are the feudal lords. They're there because of dynastic succession. They're there because their moms, dads, uncles, aunts, all of them have been parliamentarians. Let's look at that figure. So it's really become like a family business in India if you look at the Indian parliament. If you see every Lok Sabha MP under the age of 30, and this is, everybody talks about youth, and we need more youth power. And ours is demographically, ours is a country of many more youngsters, and we have a very young population. But who represents the youth in India? I think handsome is what handsome does. So when you look at the youngsters who are in the parliament under the age of 30, and if you see that they're there only because of the last names, it doesn't augur very well for a democracy. Do you believe that? And this is, just go back to the last figure. So 65% in the age group of 31 to 40 have had family members in politics. 37 in the age group of 41 to 50 have family members in politics. All 5 MPs of RLD, that is Ajit Singh's party, have a family member in politics. 7 out of 9 MPs of NCP, and NCP is the same party which broke into Aam Aadmi Party office in Maharashtra today and ransacked it. So they are the guys who all have family members in politics. About 7 of them come from the royal family, so to speak. Now when we look at the Indian parliament, whose job is to make laws, and when we talk about Lokpal Bill, which is nothing but a strong bill in place to fight corruption, do we expect the same parliamentarians who clearly have a conflict of interest with a bill like that to be there? If you look at the 6 national parties and all regional parties, you would realize that most of the high command or the top brass have serious cases of corruption or disproportionate assets filed against them. Now to expect the same parliament to make a law which it has to, as we are signatories to United Nations Convention Against Corruption, which makes it mandatory to have the central investigative agency free from the stranglehold, so to speak, of the executive. So far, and we hear of scams and they keep crawling out of the woodwork. How many scams have we had in India? One after the other. And the stakes keep going up. But we've had only 4 major convictions, including that of Lalu Prasad Yadav last month, I think. And you wonder. Now you look at that. Now we have something called CBI, or most of you would be aware of, the Central Investigative Agency. Now when the CBI's director, officers are transferred, appointed and promoted by the executive, by Ministry of Home Affairs, would you expect any real investigation or independent inquiry to happen? I don't think so. You tell me, is it possible? Let's say if you had an assistant who depended on you, would he or she testify against you if there was a charge against you? Clearly not. One of the big things that we wanted from Lokpal Bill was to actually have an independent agency looking at high-ticket corruption. We did not want it to go and seek, we didn't want the Prime Minister or the Home Minister to give his nod or green signal before the corruption of any of the ministers was to be investigated. So this was a big demand of Lokpal Bill. But as of now, as you know, it's impossible to get anything past the Ministry of Home Affairs because they are the ones who give permission for any inquiry to happen. And now we can depend on the judiciary, and people say, file a case in the court. Now the courts also, and very often you hear the spin doctors in media, and I'll come to media later. But let me tell you, very often you hear this argument. Go to the court, what's the problem? Don't you hear that on television discussions? Now what can a court do if the investigation itself is biased? If enough evidence is not collected? If the investigation is delayed beyond a point, like has happened in several cases? So it's very obvious that where big ticket corruption is concerned, there's very little to, very little salvation really for the Indian population. Okay. And now let's look at the reality of India. Now we talk about India as a fast developing country, we talk about the nuclear abilities of India and the capability, we talk about the GDP growth, of course, which is staggering now. But let's look at the harsh reality. It is really sad that only 25% of Indians have access to portable